Thanks everyone. As I was hearing your introduction, but before that, let me, Mitsubishi is one of the investor in Litmus, so you all have connections to Mitsubishi. Uh, so before I start, right, I was hearing your introduction. What I realized is all of you are qualified to make this presentation. So I'm not going to, I'm in no way carrying any extra experience. It's just that I'm the chosen one to articulate put few points. So I expect that this will become, it's a peer group the way I see it, and I expect that as I bring forward my points, it will trigger interesting interactive discussion between us, and we all go back to our job with a shared understanding of what challenges we face, right, as we are given this task of enterprise transformation. So that's my objective, to facilitate that conversation. Before I start, how many of you know the gentleman standing next to me? Great, thanks. So, I mean, I have been reading his book ever since I, got into after my college. I had the good fortune of working with him for almost 6 years when I was at Adani. He was advisor to our chairman, and for whatever reason, he always ended up reviewing my work on almost on a monthly basis. I left Adani Group about a year and a half back. So it was a real pleasure to get a call from him when he was organizing this master class in Bombay, and he asked me to present my experience of 6 years at Adani and what I learned from it, right, to a larger audience. So I prepared, I went and presented. I think the audience liked it. And so he actually told me that I should make it as a series of confessions of a CDO. So I thought that's an interesting title, and I think it's apt for a closed room discussion. We don't want our confessions to be heard by a lot of people, but it's important we talk about the challenges we face. So maybe one day I'll write a book on my confessions. But just by way of introduction, again, all of you are much more experienced than me, so it is with lot of humility that I present what I do today. But I have worked with, the way I look at my career is I have worked across from a different dimensions. I have worked with global system integrators like TCS, Cognizant, Geometric, delivering solutions, right. Then I also worked with product companies like Intermedia App was my startup, and Aveva is a large industrial software company. But the part that I want to focus today is the stint at Adani Group, where I spent almost 6 years from 2018 to 2025, and which some of you may recognize overlapped or covered the COVID period. So that also has a lot of bearing on my experience at and the lessons I learned there. And then now I am here at Litmus India, but today I promise not to talk at all about Litmus products or any product for that matter. I think it's whatever we do in our profession. I heard this in the morning also, it goes way beyond technology. Technology is a very small part of the overall things that we do. Okay. Just for people who don't know about Adani Group, so I was part of the energy vertical, and I wanted to present this slide here because to bring out the complexity and the enormity of that business, right. It spans across the entire energy vertical or the value chain. So we were making equipments like solar panels, wind turbines, batteries, hydrogen cells, etc. Then we are generating power in all kind of way possible, solar, wind, thermal power. We are storing them using grid scale batteries, right. Then we are transmitting them across the country, right. Then we are distributing them. Bombay, more than 30 lakhs for houses we are supplying electricity, and then we are also doing B2B trading of electricity and energy, right. So it's a fairly complex business. When I was there were 5 CEOs who were running this value chain. I believe today there are about 15 or 16 CEOs who manage this end-to-end value chain. All of you have experience working with CEOs. It's hard enough to deal with one, but when you have 5 CEOs who are trying to dictate your digital transformation roadmap, you know what that means. Okay. So just wanted to bring that perspective when I talk through. Okay, so my 6 years at Adani, again, as an engineer, I like to put structure to what I present, but it was in no way this nicely laid out. Okay, but when I look at my 6 years and what I did there, okay, so first 2 years were literally, or first 1 year was literally just figuring out this vast ecosystem, what's happening there, how can I add value and all that, right? Then gradually, yes, we started understanding what the business is looking for, okay, and that was the blueprinting phase, as I point out here, and then led to building stuff, scaling it up, transformation, etc., and then drive the adoption. Kind of matches with this my journey at Adani, and I'll take you through that. But obviously, it was not as streamlined as it looks on this slide. So how it all started, right? So 2018, Adani Group decided to get into digital transformation, okay, and they created 3 groups: one for strategy, business strategy for a digital world, analytics because they felt that's a key lever for anything to happen, and then technology. So I was hired to lead technology and they chose energy as their first, let's say, value chain that they wanted to transform. So I was hired to lead that, and we were first. The thought process was, let's keep them away from the daily hustle bustle. So we created an office in Bombay. Our HQ was in Ahmedabad, and we started working out of Bombay office. Very soon I realized that this is not going anywhere. I'm just living in my own bubble. No one really cares, okay, what exactly I'm doing or not doing, okay. So then we took a decision. We moved the entire team to Ahmedabad, okay, and that is actually my first lesson, okay, that we learned, and it took me 3 months to figure this out. And I believe, right, that it is super critical to have your office, even if it's not an office, if it's a table, just sit outside the CEO's door, okay. You should not, when the CEO walks out of the office, he should see your face, okay. When he is going to a meeting, he should say, Kamal chalo, meeting mein jayenge, okay, because that is where you figure out what are the challenges, okay. If you are 2 blocks away, most of the meetings it's out of sight, out of mind for a CEO, okay. So that was my first learning. How do I plant myself on his path, okay. So whenever he's going out, he sees me, he talks to me, he understands what I am working on, what my team is working on, and then he starts calling me to the meeting, right. And related to that was my second lesson, was that unless the CEO is himself driving, or let's say in this case I had even the good fortune of the chairman himself driving, okay, unless they are driving it, okay, digital doesn't move forward. It is all, it will sit in your PPT, it will sit on, the business heads don't care, to be very honest, right. They are too much stuck with their day to day work and doing stuff. So and unless the chairman himself dictates that don't bring the Excel sheet to me, okay, it's never gonna work, okay. So those are the 2 things, and I know all of you have seen this play out day in, day out. I mean, we can keep this discussion interactive. Please, if anyone, it triggers some emotions, it triggers some thought, please feel free to share, okay. Otherwise I will keep moving forward. Okay, so then after all that, we started trying to do some more discovery, right. So we started understanding what is my OT landscape in the business, okay. So like I showed, it's a vast business. So we started doing an inventory of all the PLCs, DCS, SCADA, HMI, any kind of systems that interact with manufacturing. And I mean, I can't share confidential data, but trust me, there were like thousands of different variants that we found, okay. And now there's no standardization. Maybe the standardization exists in the desktop of a SCADA engineer or the automation COE, but is it getting implemented by the engineering team, by the procurement team which is responsible for the CapEx project? We found a huge gap there, okay. And the biggest challenge for me was just trying to follow a standard when you do your capital project, okay. And what I realized is, ultimately it boils down to people on the ground. It is a very trivial statement to say, and I heard in the morning in the Mentimeter everyone talked about culture. That is the biggest deal, right? How do people on the ground, even before the operations phase, right, the project procurement team, how are they thinking about digital, right?
I was heading this plant. I was a quality head. I began as a quality head, and circumstances pushed me to a plant. Okay. It was supposed to be a temporary job, but it was never a temporary one. Okay. Until the next order, you'll be the managing the plant operations and gone. Okay. So I had a small team. I dictate terms. I do whatever I want. That was the beginning. But now I moved as an IT head. People buy the machines without our knowledge. They don't decide. They don't have even a single line for the this IT team or whatever, your SCADA or anything. Machine comes up, gets installed. The maintenance guy says, "My job is to give the machine." That's all. Now, where does the SCADA from? How do we pull the data? One fine day, we have to answer the MD. So it's very difficult. I understand the shop floor guys. Their time is very. I moved from there to here. Little bit peace of mind, but it's a different kind of problem for me. Okay. So this reality is there. You, even though you are a manufacturing guy, the moment you identify yourself as somebody else, then it's not easy to connect with this. So the drive, yeah, unless otherwise they own, unless the way they want, we cannot get it.
Yeah.
Can I just I understand your point from the top to then still it's very difficult. Discipline and the culture makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
And the skill upgradation. We
Yeah.
work a lot of things last 20 years we're working for skill development. I still find it's very difficult. If you work with Japanese OEMs, let me tell you Maruti's and Honda and Toyota's, fantastic. We have done everything, all the connectivities, utilities, everything. If we work with others, of course Indian manufacturers, the total things are little different. I remember the days 20 years ago I used to go to Maruti 530 logo to the Chalo Gone those days. People are there till 9, 11, 12, something like that. We are discussing about the traceability, everything, and on and all these things. And things works as per the schedule. But if you talk about others, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Talk about pharmaceuticals and F&B, the things are very well. The things are very well. Automation is in place. See, basically the foundation is automation. If we don't have automation and we have a lot of legacy equipments and without any PLCs and all these things, how do we are really going to connect, get the data from the equipment? So that's a big question. One thing is that the Japanese culture and the discipline is really fantastic. Mitsubishi has seen all the plants in Nagoya, Kani and all these things. People work very systematically and the entire shop floor is visible in the reception. Because the things are, everything is in place. Germans started talking about Industry 4.0 2011. Mitsubishi released the paper in 2003. Of course, we don't make it more marketing or something. We are a very silent player. But the things work, literally things work. The only point is that we have to improve the culture. We have to see that the people are not losing their jobs. That's a very important. Otherwise, वो नीचे का जो आदमी है वो operators है. I have a very good example of AI software where we can literally monitor the operator. Morning में आया उसको time कितना लगा, lunch के बाद कितना लगा. It's a simple Intel camera. The AI software we can literally monitor. But then मेरे को एक टू व्हीलर कंपनी ने बोला यार निकल जा अभी तेरा POC हो गया कुछ होने वाला नहीं है just no. कम से कम so many Japanese visitors has came. We have installed it. We have done a POC and we went out. That's it. Without doing it, no business.
Yeah.
Kamal, what you have covered as a lessons, these are to certain extent universal.
Yes.
So I think we all experience same. And in my opinion and based on experience, what I say is I think it has to be blend of top-down as well as bottoms-up approach. Without top-down approach, I think people won't be serious. We, to certain extent, pushed that it has to be their API, it has to be there in their goals. Then only it becomes serious business. And at the same time, as everybody said, bottoms is capability, awareness, and culture. Without that, you can't, drive it from the bottoms. So both, I think, blend of it is what works.
Yeah. So just a point on that goal setting, and I don't know what's the experience for the room. I've seen the, I used to be involved in setting or giving input to the goals of the CEO. Okay, what should be the digital goals? And I could see it is sitting there in goal sheet, but does that make any impact on them? They don't really care. Okay, they know कि at the end of the day, people are looking for business results. Okay, so whether as long as the sale is going up or the company is growing or the cost is going down, that line item, no one, the chairman won't bother them that much. Okay, so it is in my mind. The only thing is about mindset, right? The CEO has to have a digital mindset, right? Like all of us in the room have a digital mindset, right? In the same way, the CEO has to have a digital mindset. Yeah. Yeah.
I also agree with you.
Ah.
Maybe one is that top person should first accept that transformation is required. Secondly, we should attack on real problems of shop floor. Means I am from operations, so our IT, whatever system development, we are totally also developing, even though we are a multinational company. But our all 37 plants are interconnected. We can see their performance also from here. But 50% of our developed projects failed.
Yeah.
So you have to accept this investment. You have daring. You should dare to
Skin in
invest
the
and
game.
fail.
Yeah.
Because every failure creates a new project and you improve on those things. So maybe our journey started in 2010-11 when we started ourselves. Otherwise, we have some HQ driven transformations already. So we started developing ourselves, and I am proud that in Pune itself we developed some quality systems, real-time quality management systems, online systems, which is globally accepted in our all plant and horizontally deployed. So if it is real, if it is useful to your productivity or your final bottom line, of course it will be implemented and slowly everybody will accept. Maybe initially some troubles, but slowly everybody will accept. So just like in case of our case study, I can share you. We are monitoring our product performance in the market. To collect the data and trace it, it is a huge amount of problem. And our new model, we cannot improve those things, or maybe improvement is delayed in nature. So with visualization, whatever traceability blockchain, we started each and every critical part tracing. So for next 10 years, whatever products are in market, we know which batch number, which product is used. Many of the companies are using same. And field informations also we are getting real time. What is failure because service engineer is inputting in system. So within 10 to 15 days we can analyze and improve on our new products also, and we can incorporate this our future design also. So if it is really useful for your bottom line or your final achievements, whatever you are trying to achieve, every project is getting succeeded. So main thing is it should be really useful to real user. Either it can be your shop floor operator or can be a customer.
Correct. Cool. So I'll keep moving forward. Lot more slides to cover. But the key point here was many of my projects could not even take off because there is no connectivity to the equipment, right? I think that's the bottom line I'm trying to make. And especially now that we are in the AI, we are trying to get into AI world, right? We have this term in the software industry what we call a shift left, meaning your everything has to shift left. Same applies for AI. For AI to succeed, your mind shift has to happen on the left side, which means right at the time of asset design, okay, asset construction. You cannot wait. No one will give you that shutdown to say, do anything in retrospective. No one will spend that extra money once it is in the operations phase. Their margins are anyway wafer thin. Okay. So you have to figure out a way to make the business case and get your company to shift left. I think many of the points that I was going to cover are sort of already coming up, right? The next thing was, for me, so one of the startup actually went to the CEO and complained कि हमने सर बहुत मेहनत किया, we did the POC, now no one is responding to us, okay? So the CEO in their own style, said, okay, come on, let's do an audit of all the POCs that we have done in digital. So I went to every department and we collected that data, and I gathered more than 100 POCs that have been done, okay, across all the business. Granted, it's a large business, so a lot of people, and a lot of these POCs are done just before the assessment is coming up, right, because they want to show that they are digital savvy, they are working on some projects, and it doesn't matter, right, it has to become part of their goal sheet, right. I did something in digital, okay. So that's what was happening, and we did we were forced to do rather a lot of analysis ki why this is happening. Some of my biggest point again were around culture readiness. Are we ready to even think about digital, or is it some startup came, he wants a logo, I want something on my goal sheet, so let's do this POC, okay, वो करते हैं, but there's really no intent, there's no long term thinking, what am I going to do next, okay. The second thing I realized why these POCs fail, even if it's a good POC, is for POC you somehow procure the data. You'll go talk to the shop floor guy, अरे 3 महीने का data दे दो at this frequency, okay. With that you will run the POC, you will show the POC outcome, but what after that, okay. That POC has to go live in a very dirty shop floor environment and has to receive and process that data at a millisecond level maybe, okay. Are you thinking of that infrastructure beyond that shiny gadget that you want to bring? So that was the other thing, right. So we talked about AR, VR, we found a lot of such POCs that are fancy, good POCs which look nice when you do a demo. Business case owner, someone talked about it already. Who is owning the business case? Who is putting his skin in the game that give me this technology or give me this solution, next year I will reduce my headcount by X percentage. No business head will stand up and say that. Because first of all, they don't believe in the technology, they are doing it for some other reason, but they genuinely are not sure whether this is going to succeed, okay, because their budgets immediately, he is from cost side, he will immediately take down the budget for next year, whether the POC is successful or not, okay. So we had lot of challenge in getting people to stand up and say, I want to own this POC. One of the thing was like related to that free POCs. So at least in my business, we said we are not going to do any free POCs, because free POC means like you just do it for the heck of it. Even if you want to pay 100 rupees or 101 rupees to the person, please do it, okay, because that means you have to take 10 approvals, okay, you have to create a vendor, you have to get buy-in, you have to justify so many things, right. So put that skin in the game, unfortunately, and I don't know if that is still the case, but in my days the startups were very eager to do free POCs, because they all wanted Adani name in their PPT that okay, I am working with Adani, okay. The other thing we learnt was cost at full scale, okay. POC cost is, let's say, 0, okay, because he is doing it for free, you can do it with any hardware that is lying around. But when you are talking of enterprise scale, when you are talking of Reliance scale, Adani scale, Varroc scale, is it even scalable cost wise, okay. So we did fancy projects like, okay, satellite laker, we will monitor our transmission line and we'll see where the tree is now touching the transmission line, and then we'll send our crew to cut those transmission line, okay. We have 30,000 kilometers of transmission line. What will it take to collect satellite data for 30,000 kilometers versus sending a person, local person, to go and inspect it visually? Looks good when you do it as a POC level, but it's not scalable, okay. So you need to do that analysis right up front, ki bhai, is it scalable for the company that I am running, okay. So many of my POCs just failed because of that. But ultimately, if I take an analysis of all this, I can point it to 2-3 things, right. One is the culture part, and second is the data part, okay. Are you really, cost kiska aa raha hai? The cost is coming again for the data, whether it is satellite image or whether it is any other kind of data that you are trying to procure. Okay. Any comments on this slide? Anyone? Yeah, please.
So when you talk about AR, VR as an example, shows a very correlating experience. The thought process cutting across the whether it's energy industry or mobility.
Yeah, exactly.
There is that first when we start about an AI project, people are struggling to even get a 128 GB desktop machines. So I come in as a head of IT and say like it takes a while to even get 128 to 256 GB. But then when you see top management support, notional support, okay, they have not yet said yes, they have not yet said no. So I would take it in the favor of yes. So we actually utilize AI not to find solutions, to find out what's our real problem. Because somewhere we feel like the catch of justifying versus being justified. So then we said like we'll like put AI to find out our 80/20. So it started at the manufacturing and then it ended up at the concept engineering.
Mm-hmm.
So we said like nothing is going to, even if I put 100% of my effort on the manufacturing side of things to improve, it yields 10% productivity. Whereas if I shift left, concept engineering, so I get an 80% return on investment, and that would be the first place to attack. Then comes the methodology. How are we going to deal with it? Not many people have fortune like you sitting across CEO. I would like to take lessons from you. But then being in a far office from CEO is that we know the pain point of the CEO. So when shift lefting, then we said like, what is the guiding principle for any POCs? Frankly speaking, I'm totally against POCs. Okay, because
Yeah.
I've been on the sales side and I know what kind of a harm it causes to me. So 20 years later, fast forward, so I'm in a place where I'm receiving salespeople. So the philosophy has always been get married and fight. Don't try to understand and live in for your
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So that has been the guiding principle because one of the things we underestimate the power of POC people who come for POCs. They are not just coming here for a sale. They want to make sure they don't fail in front of a brand like Bajaj. That if you acknowledge, there is enough pre-reads, enough people who come and say how will their software will work, how their integrations will work. It is just that you need to invest some trust, some default trust in them. That has been my experience and we have been successful. Of course, out of 100 POCs, only 2 see the end of the light. But trusting people and trying to work with them has yielded more results.
Absolutely.
If you don't have the fortune of sitting across the
Yeah. Absolutely.
work, I think so.
Yeah. All right.
So we actually got the complete. So long story short, we completely got 40% of our workforce use 188 GB on their AR VR headset, while I'm still struggling to get 256 MB.
All right. So I'll keep moving forward. Okay. So what we did, right, after all this initial exploration, etc., we said, okay, now it's time to get serious and define what we really want to do, what will really move the needle for this business of Adani. So we engaged with a consulting firm and we ran about 6 months of energy digital transformation roadmap project, which focused on people, business and technology and how we can bring the three together, right, people, business and technology, how they can work together rather than chasing their own agenda, and they can chase their own agenda in life. Okay. And from a tech perspective, the big lesson for me from this was, and I was taught about this from the consultant, was to think platform, right, not to think individual use cases. And I am sure all of you have also gone through that kind of thinking change, where we should start thinking about platforms rather than point solution and develop the ability to convince again the guy with the money on why they should invest in a platform, even though the return may come little later, okay, because initially it is all about building the capability, okay, and that again requires your ability to go and talk to the management and convince them on the platform way of thinking. But yeah, before I move forward, any comments? Anyone had this platform versus point solution debate in your company? Yeah.
As I said, we have multiple systems in place, and now when we are just eliminating few of them, combining system. First, think about the platform which will connect, and then don't go the
Yeah.
silos, and then it will be again a chaos. Total out.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, you were saying something, sir?
Yeah, you made one point, just to counter that. You said that maybe POC and this thing gets success, and then maybe you will able to say that how many people can be removed. I think in Indian court case it is not important.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't work.
Even though your POC and technology platforms are very strong and will again, I don't think there should be any chances that technology will fail. 99.9% systems and technologies will work. Only thing is that how we are going to adopt it and how we are going to work with the existing workforce, that makes a big difference. I went to one of the ice cream manufacturer. She the plant head, she is the Bengali. She said that I said that these are the 6 people who are just collecting the food fees and putting into the bags. I will just put a Mitsubishi robo. She said, I understand that. What I should do with these 6 people? You let me know for that. Because she is not able to remove those 6 people. That is definitely there in Indian culture.